Imagine for a second that you are holding a map.
Okay, like a modern map or?
No, like a standard ancient cartographic document. You can feel the heavy parchment.
Oh yeah, the really thick stuff.
Exactly. And as you trace your finger across the ink, you see all the familiar topographical markers.
Right.
You've got jagged mountains and wide open deserts, deep valleys, and of course these sprawling bodies of water. You see tiny springs bubbling up from the earth and rivers winding their way through this arid landscape, eventually spilling out into a massive, churning sea.
Sounds pretty standard for an ancient map.
It does, right? But then somebody leans over your shoulder and whispers a secret that just completely breaks your brain.
Oh, wow. What do they say?
They tell you none of that water is actually water.
Okay, well, that forces a total collapse of your geographical orientation.
Exactly.
Because if the water isn't water, I mean, then what kind of landscape are you actually looking at?
And that is exactly the question we are answering today on the deep dive. We are doing a custom analysis for our listener who goes by the learner.
And the learner sent us a truly fascinating stack of notes.
Oh, it is incredible.
Yeah, it contains this highly detailed exegesis of some ancient texts.
And for those who might not, use that word every day, an exegesis is essentially a deeply critical, analytical reading of a text.
Right, like an archaeological dig into language, to find the original intent.
Exactly. And the texts in question here are some of the most heavily analyzed in human history. We're talking about the ancient writings of Genesis, Ezekiel, and Revelation.
And the mission of this deep dive is to help the learner, and really everyone listening, unlock this intricate, ancient metaphorical matrix that is embedded in these writings.
Because it is a matrix.
It really is. The core thesis of the sources provided is that these ancient writers, they were not giving us geography lessons.
No, not at all.
And they certainly weren't giving us literal fishing tips.
Right.
They were constructing this massive, highly complex cipher. It's about human communication, the nature of truth, and this ongoing psychological and spiritual battle between good and evil.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because honestly, when I was reading through the notes, it felt like looking at the falling green code in the Matrix.
Oh, that is a perfect analogy.
Right. Because at first you're just looking at shapes. You are reading about floods and fish and nets.
Yeah.
But once you see what the symbols actually mean, you realize you are looking at a blueprint of the human mind.
And you can never look at the text the same way again.
You really can't. So to read the code, we have to start at the absolute foundation.
Which is defining the water.
Right. We need to define the water.
So in this specific textual code, the foundational rule is that water equates to words or teachings or information.
Okay.
Water is simply the medium of transmission. But what we really need to focus on here is that the source text emphasizes a profound neutrality to the water itself.
So the danger isn't necessarily a lack of information?
No, not at all.
Yeah. It's rather the quality of the information you are ingesting. Because it's just a delivery system.
That is the crucial distinction, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, think about information in our modern era.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
You can have pure, life-giving water, which, within the context of these ancient texts, that is categorized as divine truth, righteous teachings, or, ultimate reality.
Okay, the good stuff.
Exactly. But conversely, you can have muddy, toxic, or poisoned water.
Which the text refers to as the devil's non-truth.
Right, or anti-truth. But fundamentally, it is all water. It is all information.
Wow. Okay.
So the source of that water is what determines whether it acts as a medicine or a poison.
Which naturally leads us to the origin point of the water on our map.
The spring.
Exactly. If we are looking at our metaphorical map, water has to start somewhere. And that localized starting point is the spring.
Right.
According to the exegesis provided by the learner, the spring represents a teacher.
Okay.
It is a concentrated, localized origin of knowledge.
And the text grounds this concept using a very specific historical and theological anchor.
Right.
It points out that 2,000 years ago, the mouth of Jesus was considered the spring.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was the origin point of a highly specific set of teachings bubbling up from beneath the surface and entering the world.
I look at it like this. A spring isn't a passive body of water, right?
No, it has a lot of energy.
Exactly. It requires immense underground pressure to break through the rock.
Right.
So a teacher in this context isn't just someone speaking out into the void. They are releasing this pressurized truth that just demands to overflow.
Yes. The teachings have to go somewhere.
Right. And when that water flows out of a localized spring, it gathers momentum and it becomes a river.
And this is where the metaphor shifts from origin to distribution.
Okay.
The rivers represent the messengers.
I see.
These are the individuals who take the water from the spring and distribute it outward, into the broader, drier landscape.
Okay, wait, let me challenge that setup for a second.
Sure.
If the teacher is the spring and the messengers are the rivers, well, where does the average person fit in?
That is a great question.
Because is the listener just supposed to be a cup that holds the water?
A cup.
Yeah, because I feel like a massive portion of humanity approaches learning exactly like that.
Oh, absolutely.
You show up, you drink the water, you feel refreshed, and you go home.
Right. Well, the lecture notes we are analyzing are explicitly and fiercely critical of that exact passive mindset.
Wait, really? The ancient texts are against just sitting and listening.
Yes. If we connect this to the broader philosophy of the text, treating yourself as a cup is a fundamental violation of the entire ecosystem.
Oh, wow.
The text argues that if you drink the pure water, but you do not become a river yourself, you are wasting the resource.
So if you hoard the knowledge rather than sharing it, it goes bad.
Exactly. You become a dead end on the map.
Wow, a dead end, like a stagnant pool where the water just sits and eventually evaporates or goes bad?
The stagnant pool is the perfect way to describe it.
Yeah.
The entire design of this metaphorical system relies on continuous distribution.
Okay.
The source points to the ancient imagery of a sacred city with 12 gates, or 12 rivers flowing out from a central point.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. Those 12 rivers represent the 12 disciples of the origin spring.
Okay.
The expectation was never for them to build a wall around the spring and drink it themselves.
Right, they had to move it.
Exactly. They became conduits, taking the teachings outward to the north, south, east, and west. The spring feeds the rivers, and the rivers irrigate the world.
And as those rivers flow out into the world, the text introduces another layer to the landscape.
The tree of life.
Right, the tree of life. The source notes say this tree bears 12 kinds of fruit, yielding fruit every single month, and that the leaves of the tree are meant for the healing of the nations. Now, clearly, we are not talking about botany here.
No, definitely not botany. We are looking at a complex metaphor for the cascading effects of shared knowledge. Through the cipher, the tree represents the messengers themselves, the disciples.
The ones distributing the water.
Right. And they are bearing the fruit of their teachings. The fruit represents the actions, the subsequent students, and the tangible results produced by their work.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the leaves?
The leaves are interesting.
Yeah, why would leaves heal a nation?
Well, think about what leaves do. Leaves are the part of a tree that converts sunlight into energy.
Right.
They provide shade and oxygen to the environment.
Oh, I see.
So in this matrix, the leaves represent the restorative ambient power of this distributed truth on a society.
Wow.
It isn't just about eating the fruit. The mere presence of this knowledge ecosystem cools and heals the cultural environment around it.
That is a beautiful image. Because the disciples are casting this net of truth outward, the landscape begins to change.
Yes.
But this mapping exercise forces us to confront a massive geographical problem.
It does.
The source text provided by the learner spends a significant amount of time on a bizarre anomaly from the book of Ezekiel, specifically chapter 47.
Ah, yes. The prophecy of the temple water.
Yeah.
It is perhaps the ultimate test case for understanding how to read this cipher.
Let's set the scene for this because the visual is really striking.
Go for it.
So the ancient prophet Ezekiel has a vision of water flowing out from beneath the threshold of a temple door.
Okay.
A man with a measuring line walks eastward, tracing the flow of this water. He measures 1,000 cubits.
Which is roughly 500 meters or about a third of a mile.
Right, so he goes a third of a mile, and at that distance, he measures the depth of the water, and it's ankle deep.
A very modest, manageable stream.
Exactly. Then the man goes out another 1,000 cubits. He measures again.
And now?
Now the water is knee deep.
Okay, it's growing.
Right. He measures another 1,000 cubits, and it's waist deep.
Wow.
Finally, he measures a 4,000 cubits, and the text says the water has become a river so massive that it cannot be crossed on foot.
It's water to swim in.
Yes, a raging torrent.
So the volume of the water is increasing exponentially, seemingly out of nowhere.
And that is the problem. Geographically, meteorologically, this makes absolutely no sense.
Not at all.
We are talking about the Judean desert, which is a notoriously flat, arid, and unforgiving landscape.
Yeah, it is dry.
Very dry. There is no heavy rainfall mentioned in the vision. There are no tributary streams or hidden groundwater sources joining this flow.
Right.
A river simply does not spontaneously increase in volume from a little ankle-deep trickle to an uncrossable torrent all on its own.
Not to mention, ancient writers were not ignorant of basic hydrology.
Right, they were farmers, basically.
Exactly. They lived in an agrarian society. They understood intimately how rivers, rain, and watersheds functioned.
So they knew it was impossible.
Oh, absolutely. By
Definitely.
deliberately presenting an impossible physical scenario, they are actively signaling to the reader.
Like a big neon sign.
Yeah, they are saying, do not read this literally. The physics are broken on purpose.
Yeah.
Look deeper.
It's the glitch in the matrix.
Exactly.
It's the moment the green code bleeds through the illusion of the desert. So what happens when we run this impossible river through our cipher?
Well, first, we have to decode the origin point. The temple in this vision is not a physical stone building located in Jerusalem.
Right.
The exegesis argues that the temple is a metaphor for a person.
Okay.
It points directly to Jesus,
Yeah.
who explicitly referred to his own physical body as the temple.
Right. Destroy this temple and in 3 days, all that.
Exactly. Therefore, the water, which is the truth, is flowing not from architecture but from a human being.
Which brings us to the spontaneously growing water. If there are no tributaries adding to this river, what actually causes it to expand?
The growing water represents the psychological and spiritual process of progressive understanding.
Oh, progressive understanding.
Think about how true paradigm-shifting learning actually happens. The first time a student hears a profound, complex teaching, it is ankle-deep.
Right. You have just dipped your toes into the concept.
Yeah, you have a superficial, safe grasp of the ideas.
And more importantly, at ankle depth, you still have total control.
Exactly.
You can easily turn around and walk away. The current isn't strong enough to pull you off your feet.
That is a vital observation.
Mm.
But let's say you don't walk away. You engage with the teaching a second time.
Okay.
You travel another 1,000 cubits downstream. Now the water is knee-deep.
So it's getting harder to move.
Right. You are starting to feel genuine resistance. The ideas are actively challenging your preconceptions. You have to put effort into moving forward.
And then the third time.
The third time, you are waist deep. The buoyancy of the water is starting to lift you off the ground of your old beliefs. You are deeply immersed in the new paradigm.
And then comes the final 1,000 cubits, the impassable river.
Yes. The truth becomes so overwhelming, so all-encompassing, that you completely lose your footing in your old reality. You cannot cross back over to your previous way of thinking.
Because it's too deep.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The actual volume of the information didn't necessarily change. What changed was your depth of understanding.
That is amazing.
The truth expanded within your own mind until it became an impassable river.
That is a stunning, almost beautiful way to describe the mechanics of human cognition and intellectual surrender.
It really is.
But the learner's notes also highlight a significant danger here. There is a very real, very persistent misinterpretation that occurs when people refuse to use the cipher.
Oh, definitely. The lecture is highly critical of literalist interpretations that strip the poetry and the psychology right out of the text.
Right.
It points out that even today, there are factions who read Ezekiel 47 and are literally waiting for a physical river of fresh water to spontaneously burst out of the Jerusalem dirt.
To just pop out of the ground.
Yes, and carve its way through the desert, flow all the way down to the Dead Sea, and magically turn that hypersaline water sweet.
Which, if we look at the actual geography of the Dead Sea, is an incredibly tall order.
Yeah, it's impossible.
It is one of the saltiest bodies of water on planet Earth. Nothing lives in it. It is a basin of death.
And that is precisely why the ancient authors used it as the endpoint of the vision.
Oh, because it represents death.
Yes, but the literalists miss the point entirely. The text argues that waiting for physical water to alter physical dirt is a catastrophic failure of reading comprehension.
Wow. Catastrophic failure.
Yes. If you are waiting for a geographical miracle, you are completely missing the spiritual and intellectual revolution that the text is actually demanding of you internally.
It's like you're staring at the map, waiting for the paper to get wet.
I love that analogy. Yeah, you are confusing the menu for the meal.
Because causality dictates that a river cannot flow endlessly without a destination. The water flows from the spring, it expands through the messengers, it deepens through progressive understanding, and eventually it has to empty out.
Right.
It flows into the sea.
And here we undergo a massive shift in the metaphorical matrix.
Okay, lay it on me.
In this ancient code, The sea represents humanity as a whole.
The sea is humanity.
Yes, the chaotic, churning, massive, unpredictable world of people. The lecture refers to it as the heavy waters.
The heavy waters. We have to pause and provide some context here. Because for modern people, the ocean is a place for vacations and cruise ships.
Right, we love the beach.
But ancient Israelites were not a seafaring culture, were they? They were desert and hill people.
That historical context changes the emotional weight of the metaphor entirely.
How so?
To the ancient Israelites, the Mediterranean Sea was a terrifying abyss of chaos.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It was where violent storms originated. It was seen as the primordial void, a domain of death and unpredictability.
So they didn't go swimming for fun.
No, they didn't view the sea with wonder. They viewed it with existential dread.
So the rivers of truth are flowing out into this terrifying, chaotic sea of everyday humanity. The noise, the masses, the cultural storms, and this is where the messengers must adapt.
Right.
The disciples, who were the rivers distributing the water, now take on a new occupation. We've all heard the famous phrase, fishers of men.
It is arguably one of the most recognizable idioms from antiquity.
Ah.
In our cipher, the fishermen stand on the edge of the chaotic sea, casting their nets of truth into the heavy waters of humanity.
But throwing a net into the ocean is a fundamentally indiscriminate act.
Very true.
I mean, a net doesn't care what it catches. When you pull it up, you are dragging up whatever happened to be swimming in that specific patch of chaos.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the catch itself, the fish.
The fish.
Are all fish created equal in this ancient metaphorical system?
Far from it. And this is where the exegesis provided by the learner gets incredibly granular.
Okay.
It connects the metaphor of the catch directly back to ancient Levitical dietary laws.
Oh, interesting.
According to those ancient codes, the net pulls in everything, good and bad alike. But the distinction between a good fish and a bad fish is based on highly specific biological markers.
So we need to explain why Levitical laws matter here. These weren't just arbitrary ancient diet fads, right?
No.
They were purity codes.
Yes, ancient tribal societies utilized purity codes as a means of boundary maintenance.
What does that mean, boundary maintenance?
It was a way to keep their community physically healthy, but more importantly, culturally distinct from the surrounding nations.
Okay, so it was about identity.
Exactly. So when the text uses biology as a metaphor,
Yeah.
it is pulling from a deep well of cultural meaning.
Right.
To be considered a good fish in this system, the creature must possess two distinct anatomical features: scales and fins.
Scales and fins. Okay, let's run that through the cipher. What do scales represent?
Scales represent spiritual and intellectual armor.
Armor.
They provide a defensive barrier. If you are swimming in a toxic, muddy, chaotic sea of humanity, scales protect you from absorbing the poison of your environment.
So you don't take the toxicity into yourself.
Right. They represent the ability to exercise critical thinking and maintain your core truth despite the cultural pressures around you.
So you aren't permeable to the toxicity. You can swim through the chaos without the chaos getting inside of you.
Precisely. And the second requirement, the fins, represent agency and movement.
Agency, okay.
A fish with fins isn't just dead weight being pushed around by the chaotic currents of the sea.
It can swim.
It has the ability to navigate. It can actively swim against the cultural tide based on the truth it holds.
The source notes use a really vivid, specific example to illustrate this, the carp.
Ah, yes. The carp serves as the ultimate example of the good fish within this framework.
Right.
It has thick scales for protection, strong fins for determined movement, and crucially, it is known for fighting the current.
It swims upstream.
Yes. The text brings in the cultural metaphor of the dragon gate, the ancient idea of the carp battling its way upstream, fighting fiercely against the heavy waters, all to reach the pure, clean water of the spring to lay its eggs. The carp is active, resilient, and inherently drawn toward purity.
It is an incredible image of a relentless truth seeker.
It really is.
But if the carp is the ideal catch, well, what happens to the rest of the net?
Hey, that's the problem.
Because if you're throwing a net into the abyss, you're going to drag up a lot more than just carp.
Absolutely.
And this is where the source text gets incredibly visceral and honestly highly challenging.
It forces us to examine the exact nature of the bad fish.
Right.
If the ideal truth seeker has scales for armor and fins for agency, the bad fish lack both.
Okay, so no scales, no fins.
The text zeroes in on creatures like loaches, eels, catfish, and squids.
The mud dwellers. The bottom feeders.
Because they lack scales, they possess no spiritual or intellectual armor.
They are completely unprotected.
Yes. They are completely permeable to their environment. And because they lack fins, they have very little agency.
So they just sink.
Gravity takes them to the absolute bottom. They live in the mud, in the dirtiest, most stagnant, toxic parts of the water.
Wow.
They absorb the toxicity of the world simply because they have no defense mechanism to keep it out.
And the source takes this biological reality a step further, connecting these scaleless, snake-like creatures to something much darker in ancient theology.
Yes. If we look at ancient cosmology, the text draws a direct, unbroken line between these slippery, snake-like sea creatures, your eels and squids, and the ultimate ancient sea monsters.
The monsters.
The Leviathan, the dragon, the ancient serpent, which serves as the universal symbol for Satan or ultimate evil in these texts.
That shifts the entire perspective on the ocean.
It really does.
The sea isn't just neutral, random chaos. The sea is effectively the devil's domain. It's the basin where all the toxic water eventually settles.
And those who dwell in the mud, who lack the armor of truth, are functionally aligned with that domain.
Okay.
Whether intentionally or not, they are part of the Leviathan's ecosystem.
I have to push back on this, though, because it feels incredibly fatalistic.
How so?
Well, if a loach is biologically born in the mud, it has no choice but to absorb the mud.
Right.
Is this ancient text really just punishing people for the toxic, chaotic environments they happen to be born into? Because if so, that is a deeply cynical view of humanity.
That is a phenomenal question, and it is exactly why the next part of the exegesis is so crucial.
Okay, lay it on me.
The text is not condemning people for where they start. The metaphor of the catch is entirely about rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation, okay.
The tragedy isn't that you were born in the mud. The tragedy is what happens when you refuse to leave it.
Which brings us to the incredibly vivid, practical analogy the lecturer uses about eating loaches.
Oh, this part, yes.
I have to warn the listener, it's a bit gross. But it makes absolute perfect sense when you map it onto human psychology.
It is a profoundly visceral metaphor for cognitive dissonance and spiritual detox.
Right. So the lecturer points out that if a fisherman catches a mud-dwelling loach, they cannot just toss it in a pan, cook it, and eat it immediately.
No, you would get sick.
Right, because it is physically saturated with toxic mud. Its stomach is literally packed with the filth of the environment it lived in.
So what is the protocol for making the fish viable?
You have to take that loach and put it in a bucket of pristine, clean water.
Okay.
And you have to leave it there, sometimes for days, sometimes for months.
Wow, that long.
Yeah. The loach is placed in a pure environment so that it is forced to vomit out all the toxic mud from its internal system.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, only after it has completely purged itself in the clean water is it considered safe, healthy, or useful.
Let's apply our cipher to that process.
Let's do it.
This is a profound, albeit painful, metaphor for human rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Think about what happens when the net of truth pulls someone out of the toxic sea of the world.
Okay.
When they are brought onto the boat, which represents the community of truth seekers, they do not instantly become perfect.
No, of course not.
They arrive completely full of mud.
Right. They bring their bad ideas, their toxic traits, their destructive habits, their prejudices.
All of it.
All the sludge they had to absorb just to survive while living in the chaos.
Exactly. And the community, the boat, has a responsibility to place them in the clean water of truth.
Right.
They must be immersed in a healthy environment.
Right.
But the process of purging that mud is not passive.
No, the loach has to vomit it up.
Yes. It requires the individual to actively vomit up the toxic beliefs that have sustained them their entire lives.
Which is hard.
Admitting you were wrong, shedding decades of toxic defense mechanisms, that is agonizing psychological work.
It's an intellectual detox, and detoxing always makes you feel sicker before you feel better.
And the devastating reality that the text highlights is that not everyone is willing to endure the discomfort of that detox.
Right.
The lecture notes that some people are pulled from the sea, they are placed in the clean water of a truth-seeking community, and they sit there for 7 or 8 years.
7 or 8 years.
And they still refuse to spit out their mud.
They just hold on to it. They clench their jaws. They prefer the familiarity of the toxicity they know to the purity they are being offered.
It is a tragic observation about human stubbornness.
It really is.
You can surround someone with pure water, with profound truth, with a supportive community. But if they refuse to open up and purge the mud they brought with them, they remain a creature of the toxic sea, even while sitting in the clean bucket.
Wow.
They are in the truth, but the truth is not in them.
That hits incredibly hard. It completely reframes the idea of belonging to a community.
Yeah, it does.
It's not just about being caught by the net and sitting on the boat. It's about the internal work you do once you're there.
Right.
And the source contrasts this stubborn, clamped shut mud dweller with the ultimate standard of what a good fish should look like.
The ideal is represented by the yellow croaker.
Yes, the yellow croaker. The text mentions this specific fish and holds it up as the absolute gold standard.
And the reason's fascinating.
Yeah. It is considered so inherently clean, so free of the mud, that a chef doesn't even need to remove its internal organs before roasting it.
Wow, really?
Yeah, you can roast it whole, and it turns this beautiful, radiant, golden yellow color, making it the perfect, unblemished offering.
It represents the metaphorical goal of the entire matrix.
Right.
To be so permeated by the clean water, to have scales so strong and fins so active that there is no hidden mud rotting inside you.
You are just completely clean.
You are golden through and through.
Yeah.
The internal reality matches the external environment.
So if we pull all the way back and look at the sprawling metaphorical map we started with,
Okay.
we realize that we are all in the water. We are all taking in information, drinking from various streams, swimming through the heavy waters of society.
Yeah.
The question this entire ancient cipher asks the learner, and really all of us, is what kind of water are we drinking? Are we swimming upstream like the carp, fighting the cultural current to find the pure spring? Or are we dwelling in the mud like the loach, passively absorbing the toxicity of the world without any armor?
And if we look at the second phase of that journey, if we pulled out of the mud by a net of truth, are we willing to do the deeply painful work of spitting out the toxic sludge we've accumulated?
Detox.
Right. Or are we going to sit in the clean bucket for 8 years, stubbornly holding on to our dirt, refusing to change?
It's a massive challenge. It takes these ancient texts, which are so often treated as dusty historical artifacts or literal rule books, and turns them into a high-definition mirror reflecting our own psychological state.
Which brings us to one final, deeply unsettling implication of this entire metaphorical system.
Unsettling? How so?
Well, we have spent a lot of time talking about the fish, the mud, and the sea.
Okay.
But we need to think about the physics of the net itself.
Okay.
A net is a physical tether that connects the fisherman on the boat to whatever is lurking in the heavy waters.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
The source text explicitly states that the net pulls in all kinds of fish, good and bad.
Right, it's indiscriminate.
It is. And we established that the scaleless mud-dwelling creatures are intrinsically linked to the Leviathan, the ultimate monster of the deep.
A dragon. Yeah.
So if the boat represents the fragile community of truth seekers, what happens to the fisherman when the net accidentally snares a Leviathan that has no intention of being purified?
Oh, that is terrifying.
The assumption is always that the boat pulls the fish out of the water. But if the monster is heavy enough, and if the fishermen refuse to let go of the net, well, does the community domesticate the monster? Or does the monster drag the entire boat down into the abyss?
Wow.
The text demands that we purify the catch, but it never promises that the boat itself is unsinkable.
That is a chilling question to leave on. The net connects you to the truth, but it also tethers you to the chaos. You have to know what you're hauling onto the boat. To the learner, thank you for sending in such an incredible stack of sources. And to everyone listening, the next time you look at a map or step into a river, remember, the water isn't always just water. Keep diving deep, and we'll see you next time.